It's not that great. That's really all you need to know. Don't go out of your way to catch it. Wait for this to make its way to DVD where it deserves to be and go play the game, because that's way better. I know normally I'd do a summary like that at the end of the review, but I've just spent a whole month doing videos leading up to this. I wanted my disappointment to be up front and center. This should have been great. And it isn't. As I'm sure most of you know, the movie is a reimagined version of the very first Ratchet & Clank game, featuring elements and characters from later games in an effort to expand things mixed together with the original plot. To wit, the evil Chairman Drek, with the help of a human, Dr. Nefarious, is destroying planets and grabbing chunks of them to build his own perfect world. However, one of his warbots is a defect, and it escapes to warn Captain Quark and the Galactic Rangers of the danger, though not before bumping into Ratchet, who happens to dream of being a Ranger, with the two teaming up to help out. Unfortunately, this blending of old and new elements doesn't work anywhere near as well as it could have because of one simple flaw. Almost nothing is explained properly. The story has so many elements to pack in that events happen at an almost constant pace with no time to fully explore anything. Why is Chairman Drek building this new world? Barely explained. Why does Captain Quark do the spoilerific thing he does? Barely explained. Who are these Galactic Rangers? Barely explained. How does Clank defeat the bad guy who's after him? Barely explained. That last point is symptomatic of another of the film's issues. It basically expects you to be familiar with the franchise going in. I recognise the gun Clank uses, but that's because I'm a long-time fan of the series. How is the film's target audience of kids and those who know nothing of the game supposed to understand what's going on? The simple answer is that they won't, and will probably be very confused. And judging by the film's current Metacritic score, a lot of reviewers were. Which brings me on to another of the film's issues. It has some very sloppy writing. The whole issue of not recognising Clank's weapon could very easily have been solved by introducing it in an earlier scene where Ratchet is having a weapons training montage, which itself doesn't have any relevance to the plot except to explain what half the weapons used in the film's dramatic fight were, and even then, the other half they used just plain well explained, and nor did they need to be. Hell, that fight didn't even need to be there at all. It's all just fury and noise for no real reason. All of these elements combine to create a film that feels incredibly rushed, like they had a hard deadline of 90 minutes and needed to squeeze everything into that time span, cutting every odd line or bit of breathing space they could without caring if the film didn't make much sense to anyone in the process. I'm not saying the film needed to be longer. There's a part where Ratchet quits the Rangers only to be quickly talked back round that could have been completely cut and the time wasted on it put to better use, for example. And there's a couple of other sections as well where they could have done the same thing. But at the very least, the pacing definitely needed to slow down, and another 15 minutes to properly explain things wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. I'm fairly certain the other 4 or 5 people in the cinema with me wouldn't have minded. All of these issues means that you'll forget about the positive aspects of the film, and there are positives. The visuals, while not outstanding, are still fairly decent. The music's pretty good, and the voice work, with big-name actors voicing side characters, while those who normally voice characters in the games reprise their roles, is fantastic. Though those big names often get very little to do. Poor Bella Thorne, she barely gets any lines at all in this film. It's not like I went into this wanting to dislike it. Quite the contrary. These videos wouldn't be the work of someone who isn't a fan of the franchise, and while I did enjoy some aspects of it, overall this is a subpar film that really didn't earn the right to be on the big screen. Its flaws would have been much easier to forgive if it was a direct-to-DVD effort, but it's not, and as a result I can see why Sony is letting this one get buried by Captain America. It's just too much of a letdown.